So instead of doing a normal discussion board post for my Writing 420 class this week, I was able to get permission to record what I would have written. The novel that we started to read this week is Caucasia. Part of the lecture materials that we had to go over included the conversation by Denzi Senna, the author of Caucasia, and Gary Young at the Hammer Conversations. While watching their conversation, I had a spark surge through my head. The conversation is about an hour long, but the spot that really got me thinking was between 34 minutes 58 seconds and 37 minutes and 20 seconds. I realized that I've never considered myself American, but in reality I am. I was born in America, but that's just my body. My blood is from elsewhere. I think because I'm white, people have assumed that I'm American. But when asked about my family, aka my ethnicity, I say I'm mostly Hungarian and German, with a bunch of other white thrown in. But when I first visited Hungary by myself for the first time in 2008, that's how they described me. They could tell after I spoke that I wasn't born in Hungary or Germany. They realized that I'm American. I recently discovered the term Hyphenated American from my Intercultural Communications textbook. To explain what a hyphenated American is, I thought I would just read straight out of the textbook that taught it to me. For some Americans, ethnicity is a specific and a relevant concept. These people define themselves in part in relation to their roots outside the United States as hyphenated Americans, Mexican American, Japanese American, Welsh American, although the hyphen is often dropped, or to some region prior to its being part of the United States, Navajo, Cherokee, etc. This seems fairly simple, I just didn't know there was a term for it exactly. But this term is inherently racist in my opinion, but I'll address that in a minute. So after watching that segment of the Hammer Conversations, I realized that I'm a hyphenated American. I also realized that all full-blooded white people in the United States are hyphenated Americans. Full-blooded Native Americans should be the only people to be considered not hyphenated Americans. Now back to the textbook. They say that it is up to the individual to identify themselves as a hyphenated American, but the problem is that that's not really how it's used. U.S. society has forced Native Americans to be considered hyphenated because some white people's ancestors, mine probably included, came to this land, took it over, slaughtering millions of people. And that's where today's term, Native American, essentially comes from. It comes from white people creating racism, when discrimination becomes the way things are done in a society, through genocide in a land that they decided to call a country, therefore turning it into America, later and now known as the United States of America. So, I think this is what today's ass-backward schools aren't teaching you. This has been Seriously Jasmine.